For years, one face became almost impossible to separate from the identity of Food Network. Whenever viewers wanted to understand why bread rose, why steak browned, or why one recipe worked while another failed, they turned to Alton Brown. He did not simply teach people how to cook. He explained the science, history, and logic behind every ingredient and every technique. That approach transformed cooking television and helped create one of the most respected educational food programs ever produced. Then, after decades of success, his regular presence on Food Network largely disappeared. Many viewers assumed he had retired, been pushed aside, or quietly vanished without explanation. The truth is less dramatic than many internet rumors suggest, but it is also far more interesting. Brown's journey reflects the changing landscape of television, streaming media, and creative freedom rather than a single shocking event. Long before becoming a television personality, Alton Brown never planned on spending his life in a professional kitchen. Born in Los Angeles and raised in Georgia, he developed interests that stretched far beyond cooking. He studied film production and cinematography, learning how stories could be told through a camera lens. Those filmmaking skills would later become one of the greatest strengths of his career. Instead of simply placing a chef behind a countertop, Brown imagined cooking shows that looked like documentaries, science experiments, and comedy sketches all rolled into one. His background behind the camera allowed him to think differently from almost everyone else working in food television. After college, Brown worked in television production while becoming increasingly frustrated with the cooking programs available at the time. Many shows demonstrated recipes step by step, but rarely explained why those recipes worked. Viewers could copy instructions, but they often failed to understand the chemistry behind the process. Brown believed home cooks deserved more than memorized directions. They deserved knowledge that would help them solve problems in any kitchen. Rather than waiting for someone else to create that kind of program, he decided to build it himself. That vision became Good Eats, a series unlike anything audiences had seen before. Premiering in 1999, the show blended food science, history, humor, and practical instruction into a single entertaining package. Brown used props, costumes, visual effects, and playful storytelling to explain everything from the structure of gluten to the physics of frying. Scientific concepts that might have seemed intimidating suddenly became understandable because they were tied directly to everyday cooking. Instead of telling viewers to trust a recipe, he encouraged them to understand the reasons behind each step. The response was remarkable. Good Eats earned loyal fans who appreciated being treated as curious learners rather than passive viewers. Families watched together, students discovered a new appreciation for science, and experienced cooks found themselves learning techniques they had never fully understood before. Brown's unique teaching style made him one of the defining personalities on Food Network. Over the years, the program received critical praise, won awards, and established a reputation as one of the most influential cooking shows in television history. As his popularity grew, Brown became much more than the host of a single series. He joined Iron Chef America as the program's commentator, where his quick wit and technical explanations helped audiences understand the intense culinary battles taking place in Kitchen Stadium. While the competing chefs created elaborate dishes under enormous pressure, Brown translated complex techniques into language that everyday viewers could follow. His humor, encyclopedic food knowledge, and unmistakable delivery became essential parts of the show's identity. Food Network soon relied on Brown for several major productions. He hosted Cutthroat Kitchen, a competition unlike traditional cooking contests. Instead of focusing solely on culinary skill, contestants had to overcome humorous obstacles designed to test their creativity and adaptability. Brown embraced the playful format, serving as both narrator and mischievous architect of the competition. The show developed a devoted following and demonstrated his versatility as a television host. For nearly 2 decades, Alton Brown represented a unique balance between education and entertainment. He could explain molecular gastronomy one moment and deliver a perfectly timed joke the next. Few television personalities managed to earn respect from professional chefs while remaining approachable to beginners. That combination helped him build one of the most loyal audiences in food television. Yet television itself was changing rapidly. By the late 2010s, viewers were no longer limited to cable channels. Streaming services, YouTube creators, podcasts, and independent productions were transforming the entertainment industry. Audiences expected fresh formats, shorter production schedules, and greater creative experimentation. Even long-established networks had to adapt to an increasingly competitive environment. Brown watched those changes closely, recognizing that the future of cooking content might not belong exclusively to traditional television anymore. As Food Network expanded its lineup of competition shows and personality-driven entertainment, Brown continued pursuing projects that reflected his educational roots. While competition programs attracted large audiences, he remained passionate about teaching the principles behind cooking. That educational mission had defined his career from the beginning, and it continued to influence the choices he would make in the years ahead. The story of Alton Brown's departure from regular Food Network programming was not built around scandal, public conflict, or dramatic accusations. Instead, it unfolded gradually through changing contracts, evolving creative priorities, and new opportunities beyond cable television. Those developments would eventually lead Brown toward the next chapter of his career, one that offered greater flexibility, broader audiences, and new ways to connect directly with fans. Today, as the media landscape evolved, Alton Brown found himself at an important crossroads. For years, Food Network had been his professional home, but the television industry was no longer operating the way it had when Good Eats first premiered. Streaming platforms were investing heavily in original programming. Creators were reaching millions of viewers through online videos, and audiences were increasingly choosing when and where they watch content. Rather than depending entirely on a cable schedule, viewers wanted flexibility. Brown recognized that these changes were creating opportunities for creative people to tell stories in entirely new ways. One of the clearest examples came with the revival of Iron Chef. Brown had spent years serving as the knowledgeable commentator on Iron Chef America, helping explain the techniques, ingredients, and strategies behind each culinary battle. His commentary became one of the defining features of the series, and many fans associated his voice with the excitement of Kitchen Stadium. When Netflix developed a new version of the franchise titled Iron Chef, Quest for an Iron Legend, Brown chose to become part of that project. His involvement reflected both his affection for the format and his willingness to explore platforms beyond traditional cable television. To some viewers, Brown's appearance on Netflix created the impression that he had been forced away from Food Network. However, publicly available information suggests a far less dramatic explanation. His long-term agreement with Food Network had come to an end, and as often happens in television, both sides moved in different directions. Brown has spoken openly over the years about the importance of creative freedom and his desire to keep experimenting with new ideas. Working with different companies allowed him to continue exploring projects that matched his interests rather than remaining tied to a single network. The COVID-19 pandemic provided another turning point in Brown's career. Like millions of people around the world, he suddenly found himself working from home. Instead of waiting for large studio productions to resume, Brown and his wife, interior designer Elizabeth Ingram, began producing simple cooking videos from their own kitchen. These homemade episodes were intentionally low budget, relying on everyday equipment rather than expensive television sets. Yet audiences embraced them enthusiastically because they felt genuine, practical, and relatable during an uncertain time. Those online programs reminded viewers why Brown had earned their trust in the first place. He focused on helping people cook with ingredients they already had, explaining substitutions when grocery shelves were empty, and encouraging creativity instead of perfection. His relaxed presentation showed that informative cooking content did not require elaborate studios or massive production teams. Millions watched these videos, proving that his connection with viewers extended far beyond any single television network. Brown also continued taking his work directly to audiences through live stage performances. His touring productions combined cooking demonstrations, comedy, music, science experiments, and audience participation into an experience unlike a traditional lecture or television show. These events reflected his belief that education should also be entertaining. Fans appreciated seeing him interact in person, answer questions, and share stories from decades in the culinary world. The success of these tours demonstrated that his popularity had never depended solely on regular appearances on Food Network. Another important milestone came with the return of Good Eats. Rather than simply reproducing the original series, Brown created Good Eats, Reloaded, and later Good Eats, The Return. These programs revisited earlier episodes, updated scientific information where necessary, corrected outdated techniques, and introduced new discoveries from the years since the original broadcasts. The revival showed Brown's commitment to accuracy and lifelong learning. He understood that food science continues to evolve, and he wanted his educational content to evolve alongside it. Throughout these years, Brown also remained active as an author. His books explored cooking techniques, food science, and personal reflections, giving readers opportunities to learn beyond television. He frequently appeared on podcasts, participated in interviews, and maintained an active presence on social media, where he discussed everything from cookware and recipes to travel and current food trends. Rather than disappearing from public life, he diversified the ways he communicated with his audience. Some online discussions have suggested that Brown left Food Network because of secret disputes or hidden conflicts behind the scenes. Publicly available evidence does not support those dramatic claims. Like many experienced television personalities, Brown experienced the natural evolution of a long career. Networks change their programming strategies, contracts expire, creators pursue different opportunities, and audiences migrate toward new platforms. These developments are common throughout the entertainment industry and do not necessarily indicate personal conflict. What truly set Brown apart was his willingness to adapt. Instead of resisting change, he embraced it. He proved that the qualities which made him successful, curiosity, humor, scientific thinking, and strong storytelling, could succeed whether they appeared on cable television, streaming platforms, YouTube, live theater, or printed pages. His career became an example of how experienced creators can remain relevant by evolving alongside their audiences rather than relying exclusively on familiar formats. By the early 2020s, it had become clear that Alton Brown had not vanished at all. He had simply expanded beyond the boundaries of a single television network. His influence remained strong because it had always been built on trust, education, and authenticity rather than constant screen time. While Food Network introduced new personalities and formats, Brown continued following the same mission that had inspired him from the beginning, helping people understand food instead of simply telling them what to cook. That commitment explains why his audience has remained remarkably loyal for more than 2 decades. Whether viewers first discovered him through Good Eats, Iron Chef America, Cutthroat Kitchen, his books, or his online videos, they continued following him because they valued the knowledge he shared. In an industry where trends often change quickly, Brown demonstrated that genuine expertise and curiosity can outlast almost any television contract.